Hey guys, I'm back with another writing lesson, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but this lesson is about showing and not telling by focusing on the tiny details. In Henry and Mudge and the Happy Cat, Cynthia Ryland didn't just tell us there was a real boy and a real cat and real feelings, she showed us. And even in the one that I showed you last time, Henry and Mudge and the Forever Sea, she showed you why it was real. So you can add the tiny little realistic details like Cynthia Ryland did in your stories to show the reader what happened in the story. One way to do this is by picturing your story in your mind and then adding lots of realistic, exact details that you're picturing in your mind. You can add that to your writing, okay? And to your pictures, all right? So, for example, if I was writing a story about a character named David meeting a dog, and I said David met a dog, the dog was cute, that's hard for the reader to picture. And that's not what Cynthia Ryland does. She doesn't just tell us stuff, she shows us. Like in Henry and Mudge and the Happy Cat, she didn't just say that the cat looked shabby. She told us the cat had a saggy belly, skinny legs, and fur that looked like mashed prunes. You might not have seen mashed prunes, but I have, and it looks kind of gross. And it does look like the cat. So she showed us that in the story. Cynthia Ryland really wanted us to picture what a shabby cat looks like. Even though you could see it in the illustration, she also put it in the words, and she used lots of little tiny details describing words. So you can do that too. So if I was going to write about a cute dog instead of a shabby cat, maybe instead of saying the dog was cute, I could say the dog was cute, but then I would describe it. Oh, he had floppy ears, and he had a wagging tail and a happy grin. If I was writing a story about a bike, maybe a bike accident, a character that had an accident on their bike, maybe fell off their bike, and at the beginning of the story, the bike was fancy. But what does fancy mean? That doesn't show me. Maybe I'll say the bike was shiny red and it had a bell and a horn and special lights on it, and the seat was shiny black, and it had a pink basket on the front. And then after the accident, maybe the bike didn't look fancy anymore. So maybe the bell was smashed and the seat was ripped, and it had the bike had mud on it. The horn fell off, and there was a wheel that was flat. Do you see how I describe it? And so look at the stories you have and see how they describe their stories, and you can use that. Look, he's describing, Cynthia Ryland's describing the water. It was blue and white and forever. It went on for forever. And look how many details she puts in the pictures. Let's see. Wow, said Henry. He got up and ran back. Henry's father rode a wave like he was a surfboard. See how it uses a comparison like we used in poetry? You can use that in your stories too. He rode a wave like he was a surfboard. And then it says, Mudge was not as brave as Henry and Henry's father. He just ran along the edge, and he stayed out of the big waves. And these stories all tell what happened in tiny little details. But still, he got so wet that he looked like a whale with legs. There's another comparison. See, it shows us in the picture, but it also shows us in the words. And then here, Henry had a hot dog with ketchup. Henry's father had a hot dog with ketchup and mustard and onions and slaw and chili and cheese. So it's telling you everything that was on the hot dog. It's telling all the tiny details, okay? So make sure that you do that. Look at Henry and Mudge and the Happy Cat that I attached below again, and see if you can find all those tiny details. Sometimes if you're writing a story about a setting that you don't know about, like, for example, if you want to write about a basement, but you don't have a basement at your house, maybe you can think of a place that's like a basement that you know about. So maybe your house has a garage, which is kind of like a basement. It's dark and a little creepy. So when you're writing about the basement in your story, you'll think of the garage that you know about and say the basement was creepy. It had spiders and cobwebs in a dark corner. It had no windows. It was so scary. And you'll write about that because that's how a garage is too. So you'll think of another place that's like the place you want to write about. Remember when you're showing feelings, we talked about this before. If someone is scared, maybe their hands are shaking and they're starting to sweat. Maybe if they're happy, they're jumping up and down. If they're sad, their head is down or tears are running down their face. Use realistic, exact details and don't just tell the reader, show them. Show them how they got from one place to the other. Did they skip to that place, or did they run to that place, or did they walk, or how did they get there? Okay? Now, in my story about the beach, I did have all the details about their picnic. I told what they had for the picnic, the sandwich and the juice and the chips. Look, Michelle started trembling and sweat ran down her forehead. What is that showing you? She was scared. I don't have to say that she was scared, okay? When I talk about Emma swimming, I said that Emma was swimming like a fish. You see the comparison I have in there? I'm showing. Comparisons are ways to show as well. Okay? Look, I said she shuffled. Emma was swimming under the water when Michelle shuffled in. Shuffled means you're walking slowly because you're scared. I, of course, have talking. I have my suddenly. Okay? So make sure you have all those showing details in. Make sure that your stories are realistic. Like here is Sahadat is writing about, he was in the park and he was riding his bike and he couldn't stop and he shouted, "Oh no!" And then he fell down and the bike broke. And look at his face is showing the feeling. Okay? And then he got up. Now, Sahadat could add a lot more details to his story, but he has a realistic story, okay? He has details in the pictures, and he even shows you how he was laying down flat when he fell. He's not standing up anymore. He shows the feelings on his face. So if you can't write it in the words, at least put it in the picture. Okay, now next time I'm going to show you some more stories. I'm going to show you another story that I wrote. But work on making your stories real and showing and not telling. And I'll see you next time.